can we use the word geriatric when we're actually geriatric?
Exactly. I know.
I've like been thinking, I'm like, I don't know why we don't even call it something for what it is. If a woman can conceive, however, after the age of 40, I'm like, why aren't we like the Wonder Women or the Golden Girls? Or like, why not even be given a
Exactly.
name that's positive for being
Exactly.
healthy enough to even do it?
Well, welcome, Ch-a Mosley. Thank you so much for joining me on Staying Ageless. I am super excited to have you on the show. I've been kind of low-key stalking you for a little bit, so I'm glad that you made some time to join me. How are you today?
I'm doing very well and very happy to see you as well.
Awesome, awesome. Um, I don't even know where to begin, but I guess we'll begin with the reason why I wanted you on the show is because I have so many clients over the age of 40 who are now
Mhm.
beginning their fertility journey or thinking about it. And there is a lot of negative feedback that comes at them from medical professionals and different stuff. And I'm always like, guys, it's possible. And so when I saw your story, I was super inspired because I was like, wow, this is a really awesome story. I loved your content. Can you tell us, were you expecting to get pregnant at 46? Was it a complete accident? What was your journey? Were you looking forward to it? Were you
Mhm.
hoping? That part I don't know.
Okay, that's no problem. So no, I was at a place where I had resolved that I was not going to have children, and
Ah,
hmm I had arrived at that place at 41 when I unexpectedly got dumped. And I had been with a guy, and he was up front. It's funny. I was just telling a girlfriend about this. He never wanted to get married, and he didn't want to have children. And
wow.
this for me is where, like, I could say to ladies, like, do not compromise on yourself. So I said, you know what? Because at the time I was 38, and I said, well, if
Yeah.
I was going to have babies, I would have had them already, and that's fine. And my mom and dad did not get married until they've been together 50 years. It was almost like dad
Oh,
just wanted to
wow.
make sure mom would be taken care of. But I grew up in a home where it's not like I believe you have to be married to be committed.
Mm-hmm.
So when I find myself with this man who's very kind of intriguing and fun, and we like to travel and we're good friends, I compromise and I said, these things don't matter. And then I finally started to realize that his unwillingness to be married was he was unwilling to commit. I could see the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Not that there was infidelity to my knowledge. Like it wasn't that, but he just wasn't in it fully.
Right. Right.
And so that started to wear on my morale, and he started to see that.
Mm.
So then he broke up with me. So now I'm 41 and I got no man, no babies. And I'm like, I gave my final childbearing years to a man who doesn't want to have children. That's where I
Right.
was.
Right. Ooh, child. I know there's some other people out there who are probably sitting there going, ooh.
Like that's what I did. And I just was like, that's what happened.
Okay. Okay.
I
I
wasn't
understand.
beating, yeah, I wasn't beating myself up about it particularly, but I was recognizing that that's kind of where I was. Fast forward, so I got to do some work for myself, working on myself and, pick my morale back up about things. And fast forward, I meet the man that I'm with now. And the beautiful thing about him was he was so no BS. Like from day
Mhm.
one, I was welcome into his home. There were no strange phone
Mhm.
calls. There, every time he said he was going to show up, he showed up. He kept
Mm.
planning the day, like he was in it, and I was like, okay, because at this age, by now I'm 44, 43, 44, and that's rare. Now, like the dating scene gets sketch,
I
you
hear
know,
you.
it can get interesting. And I was like, wow. So we did not take very long to really get into a very committed and trustful relationship. And we were intimate. And then there was no protection. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. I still have my period. We actually do need to talk about it. So we talked about it. And even friends would be like, wow, do you guys think you want to have children? Can you have children? So it forced the conversation of the what if.
Right.
And because I didn't want it to be like, oops, and we don't know what we're going to do. I'm like, no, we going to talk about it and have an agreement. And we agreed. We're like, listen, if it were to happen, it would be amazing. And we would joke and we would say, it's last call. Like if somebody wants to come be with us, like the shop's closing soon. But, you know, and I would even joke with people. I would be like, yeah, if some being can come along and find an egg to scrape off the side of my uterus and make it work, well, sure. Like, come on.
Right. Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
totally unexpected. You're 46. What happens with the medical professionals and what kind of support did you have? Did you find a great doctor? Did you love your process, or did you learn some things through going through the process?
I love my process, and I realized I need to rewind. I conceived first at 45 with him,
Okay.
and then I miscarried. And
Oh,
my OB at the time, she was this old kind of battle axe doctor. Like she had been through it all, seen it all. And she was like, honey, the fact that you can even get pregnant is amazing. And when I started to miscarry, she was very in my corner. Like, listen, just because I was bleeding and I thought I was miscarrying. And she was like, well, just because you're bleeding doesn't mean you're losing a baby. And she was working with me through the hormone tests to watch my levels. And then, eventually we arrived at that the pregnancy was non-viable. But she was in my corner. And she was she was a white lady, because I know there can be also feelings like people of different races don't always treat us well. I said she had been around the block. I call it battle axe, because you could tell she had just seen it all and she was rooting for me.
right.
And that was actually like a really good and sweet experience. But like I said, that pregnancy wasn't viable. But
Mm,
so on the second pregnancy, she was retired. She was gone. Um, but my OBs were actually, they were
okay.
cool. They were cool. But there were still the little things like, are you going to take, they were pushing on me baby aspirin. And, in case I got preeclampsia, which is the extremely high blood pressure. So there was that push because of my age. You could see like, well, why don't you want to take it? You should take it. And so there was that. And I'm not going to say that I'm anti-medication all the way around. If I get a headache and I can't beat it after all measures, well, I might take a Tylenol, but I am not medication for management of issues.
Right. I hear you.
And right. And so that was something that was getting pushed on me because of my age. But all in all, I feel like the medical care that I did get was fair, just sprinkled here and there with some uncertainty and naysaying.
What kind of naysaying were we talking about? Geriatric pregnancy stuff, or what were they saying?
I'll give you an example. I went for the anatomy scan for the baby. And the anatomy scan is the ultrasound where they look at everything. And I'm not so much saying it for you, but for ladies who maybe haven't been the journey yet. You're going to get an ultrasound at about the 20-week mark where they look at every bone, every organ of your baby to make sure that the baby is fine. And this is kind of like the do or die of how is your baby doing, this ultrasound. You'll
Mm,
know. And when I say everything was great, it was great. Your baby is fine. I just was like, I just thought the doctor should have been like, well done, mom, well done.
right.
Right. But she wasn't. There was one anomaly. I struggle with that word, anomaly, with one of my baby's arteries, but it's asymptomatic. The artery should go this way and it goes this way, but it's
Right.
asymptomatic, right? It's kind of one of those things where it's just like,
Right.
if she ever has surgery, just let the doctors know so they don't miscut. But she's healthy. There was this one thing. Well, you should get an amniocentesis because that could be a marker for Down syndrome. And I'm like, well, why would I get my baby an amniocentesis? Like every other test, I did all the chromosomal tests, all these things, because now amniocentesis has a risk. And I'm like, why would I do that?
Right.
Right. But
Right.
well, because of your age and because of this and because of that. And are you taking the baby aspirin? Well, why not? Like that visit that I felt like should have been like the well done, good job. She couldn't let me win. There still had to
Oh,
be, well,
that's just so
you know,
sad.
I left that. Yeah, it really was because I was like, I could tell she wanted me to have a worry.
Yeah, yeah.
She wanted me to have
And
a worry.
the reason why I asked you to elaborate on this is because I hear this all day from different patients on different
Mm,
subjects about different health conditions. And one of the things that is very important in my office is that we speak life over every woman that comes in there. We speak life about every
mm,
condition. I don't care what people are coming with. I'm going to be that person who's going to believe that it's going to be healed, you know?
yes.
So I just have a problem with people dropping these little nuggets that, and the problem is when you accept them mentally, the good thing is that it really sounds like you were just like, and block that. Because when you
That,
accept it mentally, it can lead down a rabbit hole of anxiety. It can lead to actual manifestation of problems that weren't even supposed to be
mhm.
there because our minds are so powerful. That's why people can be told you have 3 weeks to live, and some people actually die, and some
Yes.
people stay alive. And
Yep.
that's why I feel like the power of the tongue when it comes to medical professionals is so important. And I don't know why there aren't more people just being taught to like reel that back in. You ain't got nothing nice to
Well,
say.
yeah, reel it back in. We have to understand the very sad truth that there is a big relationship between the medical profession and the pharmaceutical industry.
Of course.
And there is
Yeah.
money in problems. And in geriatric pregnancies, there's an opportunity for all kind of money. All those ultrasounds,
Mm,
all those tests, all that medication. Like, don't be confused. There is a financial relationship as well. Now, I'm not going
right.
to say that these things aren't recommended because there is genuine concern and care. Like, obviously, these doctors have seen the downsides and the losses too. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, they're evil people and they have
Right.
no cause for concern.
Right.
But I believe that that relationship with pharma and those dollars do speak as well.
Yeah, I do too. I also do think that there's a generally I love I mean, I have some doctor friends that are incredible and they actually care about their
Mm.
patients. So it's not everybody, but there are a
Mhm.
lot and there is a general tint over the industry of people not having enough empathy. And I think that the lens in which they look at things is generally pretty negative. It's like they're
Yeah.
looking, like for me, like I'm looking for how to promote someone's health. They're coming from pathogenesis, so they're looking at what is the symptom, where's the bad symptom. And when you
Mhm.
look at stuff like that and you don't have empathy, you now speak from a place that's super negative, right?
Yeah.
And can
Yeah.
send people spiraling. So instead of being like, oh my God, congratulations, Chia. Like, you are killing it. Your baby looks amazing. We did notice this one thing, but it's totally asymptomatic. Nothing to really super worry about at this time. We just want you to focus on, feeling great, da 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 da. Instead of that, it turns into there's this very intense thing. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
you're literally like, like, am I gonna die? Like, what's happening here? And it could just
Yes.
send you down a spiral for no reason, for no good reason.
That's right. That's right. And that is why I like keep telling my story and I keep repeating myself as I get new followers because I realize women need hope. When you go to the doctor's office, at least my experience, now everybody was good, but nobody did this. Nobody told me of a successful pregnancy where the lady did it without drugs or holistically or
Mm,
naturally or things like that. And you just
mm,
want to know, like, because obviously, yes, women get preeclampsia. That happens. They get the diabetes. Like things do have. I'm aware of ladies who did go through it. But do you know, I also have personal friends who conceived naturally in their 40s and delivered their babies on time, no complications. Like I'm
no
not
complications.
alone. But you would get
Yeah.
the idea that it's never been done.
Yeah, and that in itself always makes me kind of chuckle because I'm African and I hear stories about like 6-year-olds popping out babies, in Africa. And it just,
Yeah.
and people tell you these stories and you're like, what?
What?
And so, so when I learned about stories like that, and then like when I hear these things about geriatric, I'm like, 40 isn't really, I understand why you're doing that, but you probably should calm down a bit. Maybe start on the whole geriatric thing when someone's like 50 to 60, right?
I'm like,
Like
can we
that's
use the word geriatric when we're actually geriatric?
exactly.
I
I know.
literally, I've like been thinking, I'm like, I don't know why we don't even call it something for what it is. If a woman can conceive, however, after the age of 40, I'm like, why aren't we like the Wonder Women or the Golden Girls? Or like, why not even be given a
Exactly.
name that's positive for being
Exactly.
healthy enough to even do it? Why is it?
Exactly.
Because I'm sorry, we don't call men like geriatric D or,
It's
we don't.
true. And the other thing is what you just said points to something else that I always try to remind my clients because one of my therapists who worked in my practice, she's now had 2 kids and she's like 44, 45. I mean, she looks like she's like 20 something, okay?
Mm,
She's been plant-based most of her natural life. She's super healthy. And genetically, I know she's not actually her age. Like
mm,
I know I am not actually my age. And there are
mm,
some people who do take really good care of themselves. And
yeah,
so even though our age is a certain number, that does not mean that we're not the same as somebody else who's the same age. And you
that's
you kind of strike me as someone who was like generally looks pretty healthy. I don't know you like that, but you look
yeah.
like you were pretty healthy. And so you may not have actually been genetically 46. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think I am.
Yeah, I
I
don't think so
don't I don't
either.
think I am. But I think too, and you're right on the genetic aspect of it, because as I watched my parents age, my dad was in the gym up till 83. And he passed from complications from a car accident. And even then it was hard for him to go. Like, you
Wow.
know, he was
Wow.
so strong. Like this part of my dad's passing isn't, spoken about, but he actually had cardiac arrest while undergoing spinal surgery. And
Oh,
so the
wow.
neurologist, yeah, and she had never experienced that before. And the neurologist, she was this little petite kind of little white lady. And she was like, your dad is strong. She was like, I was like having the, she's like, for him, she was like, he is not 83. She's like, I have never had anybody code on my table before, but the amount of work, because he was so big and so strong. And that is the genetic line that I come from. And my mom only recently has started to have some deterioration mentally, but she still physically can move that body around and walk. And that's the spirit of the gene pool that I come from. And I just like, I'm gonna make you guys proud. Like, I don't feel like 40. I'm 48 now. I don't feel like that's where I am, but genetically, I think I have a leg up because that is what I come from. That's my
I
stock.
think so too. I think so too. Did you end up giving birth in a hospital, at home, in a clinic? Where were you? What did you decide?
Ooh, this gets back to speaking on things and the patient internalizing it. So I was meant to do it in a birthing center. I didn't want to do
Ah.
it. I didn't want to do it at home because I was like, home is not relaxing to me. Home, I'll be looking at the dirty dishes and I'm like, and yeah, I just was like, home is not. I know for some people, they're like, home is my place. I'm like, home is where I do many things, but give birth is not one of them. But I will
Okay.
do a birthing center because I wanted to do natural. And I actually do not have a high tolerance for pain. Like, I'm wimpy when it comes to pain. So I was like, I need to be where the pain management, like epidural, is not an option. So I just have to suck it up.
Mm.
That was my plan. I got so antsy about being having a forced delivery because of my age. They would like, we don't want you to go too far, and I had carried my baby to term. So I was getting antsy about it, and I was like, well, let me look at natural induction techniques. So I got 2 membrane sweeps. The one membrane sweep first time got me dilated, but I didn't go into labor. I went back a week later. I got the second sweep. Hour and a half later, my water broke. So
Wow.
In a birthing center, you have 24 hours to deliver after that water breaks, and then legally they'd have to send you to the hospital. I was tired. I had not slept. I tried to eat too late. Like that labor went quick for me. Like the water broke, and an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours later, I was in active hardcore labor.
Wow.
And and my man tried to bring me something to eat. I ate. I threw it back up. So I had no food on my stomach. I was laboring. My water broke like at 3 something. I was in labor by 5. I was at the birthing center midnight, 1 in the morning. So now I'm laboring through the night. And I couldn't get the baby out. It just wasn't happening. I was at hour 22. I was exhausted. And I'm like, it's not happening. The contractions that slow. And I was like, hospital, epidural, I'm gonna need to sleep.
Right.
Um, and at that point, that was the only way I was going to be able to sleep is with epidural. And so I went to the hospital. Baby's heart rate started crashing, and we had to make the call to do C-section at this point. And so I wind up all the things that I was trying to avoid, everything that I was trying to avoid and put my attention on is exactly what I got. I wanted my natural labor, and I probably should have just let my baby come when she came. I had that choice, but I got antsy about it.
You had the choice to wait versus induce, is what you're
I
saying.
had the choice to wait, but the conversations at the birthing centers, they were just asking me, like, what do you want to do? Because we don't recommend. And what do you want to do? The question kept coming. And so I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's just get her out at 41 weeks. So I don't have to worry about 42 weeks. Let's just get her out so I don't have to think about it. Baby, let's just get you out.
Oh goodness.
Once we got her
Oh
out, all
goodness.
right.
Oh goodness.
You
Um,
know.
what would you say were the major lessons you've learned so far? I know that parenthood is an entire chapter for people.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the process of the unexpected pregnancy and now delivering a healthy baby, she's really cute, by the way.
Thank you.
Um, what are the major lessons you feel like you've learned?
Yeah. The major lessons I've learned is one, that you can do it.
Mm,
And all the worry, like I understand it. It's easier said than done, but all the worry is unnecessary. And that is why I started telling my story on social media. It was actually my means of handling my worry. I didn't want to tell people I
mm,
was pregnant because what if I miscarry? What if I this? What if I that? What if they make fun of me? And I was like, whoa, Chia, this is not even your natural personality. So just start sharing your story. And I wind up helping more women than I could have ever imagined just by sharing. So, one, mindset matters, and do
yes.
whatever you need to do to handle your fears and your worries. Two, watch it on the social media algorithms. They will send you things that are disturbing.
Oh
I
my
got
god.
sent, yeah, it will just cross your eyes of a sad story of a woman who lost her baby, stillbirth. I remember one night like this thing, and I don't know. I looked at it, and it was the little baby, and I was done. I was pregnant, and little Naomi, and I was crying, and I was like, "Oh my God, no, baby!" And Naomi was kicking, and I was having to apologize. Babe, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have watched it. And it was almost like she was letting me know she was fine, you know. But be mindful of what you ingest information wise while you're pregnant, and be mindful that
Agreed.
the algorithms will do these things. You had click on, I don't like it, thumb down, whatever. Whatever you have to do to keep your own positive morale up. And then two, be willing to do your own research.
Mm.
I did my own research, like how I managed my high blood pressure. Did you know that a high protein diet is a way to keep your blood pressure down? I kept a high protein diet, and I never had a spike in my blood pressure, not one bit.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that willingness to educate yourself and know how you want your pregnancy, how you want your delivery. Like, what do you want? You have a right to decide, but get the data so you're making the proper decisions, you know? And
Right, right.
yeah,
That's
these
awesome.
are my lessons and my wisdoms.
Awesome.
And yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else you would say to a woman who is kind of stuck in anxiety or, maybe going down a negative spiral because of things she's heard?
hmm Are we talking about the pregnant lady or the one that wants to get pregnant?
Either. Both.
Either. Both. To the pregnant lady who wants to conceive, just know that anything is possible. Anything is possible, and you just have to maintain a positive outlook that if you have a baby, how can you be happy? And if you don't wind up conceiving, how can you be happy? Because you have to be willing to experience either one. You may or may not actually conceive, and that's for a 20-year-old or a 4-year-old conception. And a healthy pregnancy is not a guarantee at any age, and you have to be happy either way. And so work out for yourself what does happiness look like either way. Those ladies. For the ladies who are pregnant, I think my advice remains the same. Find trusted people like this woman here who will consider your mental and physical well-being and care during the process, and who won't scare you with anything along the way, because it is true. Even the smallest little innocent hint at a problem, when you are pregnant, it is so scary, or it can
Right.
be.
Right.
It can be. Now, I feel like I'm a very strong mental fortitude, and I know where to go when I feel scared. I went to church. That day that doctor said those things to me, I went and immediately got my spirit right about it. I didn't let her.
Right.
You keep your to yourself. So you have to have your safe places to go where you can actually be helped to look at what you're afraid of and get your morale back up about it. Like, don't internalize it and harbor your fears, because fear is stress, and you don't
Yeah.
need stress at any age in a pregnancy, but especially at our age. You just don't need it. And so be mindful of it and have your safe places to go. Do your
Love it.
research for yourself.
Love it. Love it. Where can people find you online, Ch-a?
So they can find me on Instagram. I'm pregnancy over 40, FORTY, like the full word. You can find me on TikTok at pregnancy over 40, 40. And then I recently just launched my website, which is pregnancy over40.com, where I have my merch, like my shirts, and my tagline is, you said it earlier, it's a little whited out, but it says, it's possible. Pregnancy over 40, it's possible.
Oh, that's cute.
But I have other merchandise that just simply says, it's possible, because it's not just about pregnancy after 40. It could be finding the man, having a career change, whatever it is that you are looking to accomplish. Maybe you're feeling like it's a little bit late. It's not. It's all possible.
I love that. I love that so much. Thank you so much. This has been a really awesome interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and helping me spread the hope and the message. I really appreciate you too.